Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first, not the 76 o'clock news of 2020, the first podcast of the decade. Yes! And it really is not the 76 o'clock news, because as far as I know, there is no news regarding Fallout 76. There is, however, I believe, news about Bethesda, which is all very exciting. There's tons and tons of news, and by news I mean rumours that everyone is taking and running with. Some of these rumours may well be actually true. So let's start with the first main exciting one. Starfield! Starfield! We're getting Starfield this year. Maybe, possibly. I'm seeing all these videos pop up in my feed. Starfield is going to appear this year because Bethesda are hiring, and they're specifically hiring in the studio that is going to be making Starfield, Maryland. Did you say Maryland or Maryland or that one? The OG Bethesda Game Studios have hired somebody to make trailers for them. Maryland. Really? Is it Maryland? Maryland. It's Maryland, right? Maryland. Okay, whatever. That one. And they... Is Todd Howard jerking people around again? He did the same thing for Doom Eternal. No, he didn't! No, he did not! Todd Howard has nothing to do with Doom Eternal. Don't make me do another rant video. Bethesda Game Studios and Bethesda Softworks are not the same thing. Doom is... I was going to say id Software. It's still id Software, isn't it? It's still id Software. It's Wolfenstein went to Machine Games. It's id Software, right? It may be Bethesda Softworks, but it's not Bethesda Game Studios, who is Todd Howard, okay? Todd Howard is the head or lead dev or something. He's the head honcho in Bethesda Game Studios, and I believe Maryland Studios, the Maryland division, right? So he's that guy, okay? Don't start with the whole Bethesda is owned by ZeniMax. We all know that. Everyone knows that. The big problem is everyone gets mistaken between Bethesda Game Studios and Bethesda Softworks, right? Todd Howard has nothing to do with Doom, is what I'm saying, okay? Todd Howard has nothing to do with Doom and nothing to do with bloody Elder Scrolls Online. Yes? Okay. However, this news has nothing to do with Bethesda Softworks or ZeniMax specifically, and everything to do with BGS Maryland. They have apparently hired somebody to do trailers for them, and there's noises that they're ready to release 2 new games, one of them being a mobile or something like this. And of course, the obvious game is the one we know they're working on, or at least the one we assume they're working on. We'll get to that in a little while. Starfield. This possibly means there is going to be a release of Starfield this year. I would imagine that is probably true if this person being hired is supposed to be hired for Starfield. Hiring them about now for a release this year does make sense. So, it's probably... I'd say there's a reasonable chance we're looking at something that's reasonable. If this job listing is correct, making all the assumptions here, 2020 is a possible release for Starfield, and that's no surprise to anybody paying any attention, because it's pretty much when I think a lot of us were thinking it was going to come. 2020, 2021 maybe, right? It's about right. It feels about right. It's been 5 years since Fallout 4, and 2020, it sounds like a cool date. They did Skyrim on the 11th of the 11th of the 11th, so Starfield can come on 2020, 20 something, pick a month, maybe October, so that we can have 2020, 20th of the 10th month or something like that. They like to do that sort of thing. So, it's a possible. The 20th month. Yes, it's actually going to be a joke. It's actually going to be August 2021, which will technically be the 20th month of 2020. I will laugh my backside off if they do that. Even though it will mean we're waiting one more year. One more year. If they actually made an announcement that they will be releasing Starfield on the 20th of the 20th of 2020, meaning the 20th of August 2021, I will just laugh so hard and quite possibly give them kudos for being unbelievably annoying with style. But yeah, it does make sense. We knew Starfield was playable in parts as early as a year and a half ago, and if the game is approaching completion right about now and they're in the polish stage and they announce it at the E3 and we get it for the latter half of the year, it would probably be consistent with what Bethesda has done in the past. So then, of course, this is where everyone's like, oh no, Starfield, it's going to be an online live service with microtransactions, and we don't know what it's going to be, but at the moment, if I had to guess, I'd say it's going to be a single-player RPG. Probably open world-ish, open universe-y. If I had to guess. Now, will I guarantee that? No, because, if it turns out it's actually a mobile card game, I'll be surprised, but I wouldn't say no one could have seen it. You know what I'm saying? But I honestly think they have been working on another open world single player RPG. Beyond that, I'm not willing to say I'd bet much. Like, will it have microtransactions? Right now, I'd say I don't know. I would have to say probably. If I had to do it right now, I actually think it would be really good PR if they actually came out and announced, nope, we've decided this one will have no bloody creation club. There will be full mod support, but there will be no creation club, no microtransactions. That would be good. I think that would be a good PR move, but I don't know how much money they've made from the creation club. I don't know how lucrative the microtransactions have been. If they have indeed been lucrative enough that it offsets any sales they may lose because of the negative PR, then yeah, they're going to put MTX in. Bottom line, if the MTX made them more money than they lost, they're probably going to keep it. But that's the big question. That is the $1 million. That is the $1 million question. I'm still having a hard time understanding how the Creation Club has made that much money on anything other than the PlayStation 4. I'm still a little baffled that there are people basically spending money on those things on PC, for example. I find that one I know there's some stuff there that might be reasonable quality, etc., but it's money, it's serious money. And there are things on, there are mods out there that will usually do more or less the same. So I don't know. I am not going to say it won't have MTX because I think there's a chance it will. In fact, I would actually at the moment, if you put a gun to my head and said, will there be MTX? I'd say, yeah. But you never know. I mean, you only have to look at certain things like Wolfenstein Youngblood, where they did have MTX. They obviously had them, but they backed off from whatever it was they were thinking, which means they may well have read the tea leaves on that. But then you only have to look at Fallout 76 to say, if they were reading the tea leaves, they were reading them and giggling. So I don't honestly know at the moment. So yeah, here's the thing though. The big question for me is, will it be moddable? And I'm going to say 99% chance yes. It's almost certainly using the same engine. If it's using the same engine, it's moddable. Okay? If it's using the same engine, it's moddable. That doesn't necessarily mean they will release their creation kit for it. It doesn't necessarily mean they will release official support for mods, although I think they would. I don't see them. I would say if they didn't, if they said, no, we're not releasing mod support for this one, the PR strike would be huge. And it would also be a completely pointless move because, as I said, it won't matter if they release official modding support. There will be modding. They can't stop it, basically, not with that engine. So it would be a bit of an own goal for no particular reason. So as long as it's using the current engine, 99% sure there will be mods. And yes, there'll be mods on day one. So, like they care about PR at this point. Well, yeah, I think they do probably care about PR. My guess is they do care about PR. The question is, do they care about... Well, no, the question is, does bad PR cost them more than they're earning on the bad behaviour? That's what it comes down to, guys. That is it. I hate to be so jaded, and I hate to be so clinical on this, but it is probably going to come down to, did the bad PR cost them more than they earned? And if the answer is yes, then they may do some good PR moves. But if people are spending the money on the Creation Club, then yeah, they're going to go with it. They're a business. They're going to go with it because they're a business, guys. I mean, everyone talks about how great CD Projekt Red is for not doing all these things, but I believe they do those things because they know it's a good business model to make them money. I think they know if they suddenly became like a cynical cash grab machine, long term, they would lose money. That's what I believe. And if it turns out that I'm wrong and the best way to make money is to do those cash grabs, inevitably they will go that way as well. So that's just how I see it. So, but at the moment, what I'm hoping, or what I think, is Starfield will be an open world single player RPG. It will be moddable. I think it will have official mod support. Again, I do. I think it'll have official mod support because I don't see trying to prevent modding as being profitable, because it's not possible, but it would be counterproductive. Sort of, they would set up an antagonistic system. If anything, I think it would limit the life cycle of... I mean, here's the thing. If they tried to limit modding, it would have an effect on the modding community because we'd be demoralized. But beyond that, I just think it would be a bad move all around. So at the moment, I'm expecting single player, open world RPG, official mod support, but I am expecting the Creation Club because I have a feeling it's coming. I don't want it to come, but I'm bracing myself for it. I really am. The thing is, we have seen a lot of signs of a lot of companies backing off the more predatory monetization this year. We have seen it. We've seen some of them jump in with both feet. Fallout 76 seems to have gone completely nuts, but we've seen a lot of companies back off a little because it has become a more toxic thing. And I think in 2020, that trend is going to continue. I think people's tolerance for microtransactions, loot boxes, has been worn away. I think the golden age of fleecing the customer is over. That doesn't mean they won't try to fleece the customer. Of course they'll try and fleece the customer. That's what businesses do. But I think the customer's tolerance for it has become eroded more and more. And 2019 was, and maybe 2018 to some degree, the year of the memes when it came to this sort of thing. So I'm not saying I'm optimistic, but I think I'm less pessimistic than some because I honestly think there is still a business model, a niche for companies to make full price games and make lots of money doing it. And while some companies can fit in the live service arena, some of them can sit in that we will try to milk the whales dry pool. It's a lot smaller pool than there are players attempting to drain that pool. Where I would say the potential pool of people willing to buy full-priced games with no extra costs is, I wouldn't say unlimited, but it's much, much larger. And if a lot of the big players stop feeding into that pool and stop tapping into that potential revenue, other companies will do it. And we've seen that happen. We have seen a lot of companies step up and create the sort of games we want them to create when the AAA companies have gone off and created crap. And those AAA companies have sometimes suffered for it. So I'm going to say, let's wait and see. And if you're one of these people who's already convinced it's an utter fail, what I would actually suggest is you just stay away from any and all news about Starfield, because I can sort of predict what's going to happen. There's going to be some people, they're going to go on to every single solitary Starfield video they see out there from anyone going, oh my god, I can't believe you people don't know this is going to be a live service where you have to sell your mum to be able to play. Oh my god. And if you honestly think Starfield is an absolute guaranteed fail, save yourself a lot of heartache, and other people probably, and just ignore it. And if you're right, it'll get released, and within a few weeks you'll see all these videos pop up and you can feel all smug about things without having had a heart attack beforehand, right? Me personally, I'm going to wait and see what they reveal. First of all, are they revealing Starfield? And then gauge it and judge it depending on what we see. And then, of course, I'm actually going to judge it on what they actually release. And you never know. If it's what I want, I'm going to be happy. If it's Skyrim in space, I'm going to be happy. And I know there'll be people who will be absolutely enraged by that idea. How dare you be happy if they make exactly what you want? How dare you? They have treated you so badly. How dare you actually say, okay, now you're making what I've demanded you make, the way I've demanded you make it, I will buy it. How dare you reward them for doing the thing you want them to do? But I'm going to do it. On a related bit of news, though, I heard rumours that ZeniMax were selling themselves to Sony, and that Starfield was cancelled, and they're actually all working on the Elder Scrolls 6. Don't be daft. I mean, well, okay. Would ZeniMax sell themselves to Sony? Yup. Would Sony offer them enough money? Don't know, actually. I don't know how much money Sony have got, right? You know, is it possible that ZeniMax would sell themselves or parts of themselves to Sony? Yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, in actual fact, there's a lot of people who believe the reason Fallout 76 went the way it went was because the guy who owns, like, the majority of the company wants to sell the bloody thing off. So if Sony came along and went, oi, bucket, cash, give you cash, you give me company, he'd be like, yep, thank you very much. Would Sony buy it? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, they got hurt a little bit by BGS with the modding situation for the Xbox versus the PlayStation 4. Would having control over Bethesda Game Studios allow them to dominate the cycle for the next console and modding? Who knows? I don't know. It's all rumour. Not sure it's true, but I'm going to need to see a lot of actual evidence, because all I've seen so far is one sort of like report or, insider thing. I'm going to need to see something a bit more tangible than that little bit of rumour before I even think about believing it. So right now, I don't believe it. No. As for they've cancelled Starfield and are now working on the Elder Scrolls 6, I don't even see how that holds water, because the game was supposed to be in an almost playable state a few years ago, and then suddenly they go, a company says, yes, we will buy you, and that game that you have almost finished and that everybody is waiting for, we are going to cancel it and get you to start working on another title that probably won't be coming out for at least another 3 years. Because even if they cancelled Starfield a year or so ago and thought it was a good idea to not mention it, and everyone started working on Elder Scrolls right there and then, you're still not going to see Elder Scrolls 6 until, 2023? Earliest? Why would a company do that? That just makes no sense to me. A company is not going to buy a company like BGS, cancel a game they're almost ready to release, and just set them working on a game. Granted, Elder Scrolls 6 is a guaranteed moneymaker. I mean, it's and if they make the Elder Scrolls 6 the way I want them to make Elder Scrolls 6, if they do what I want, if they do what I tell them to do, it'll be a guaranteed moneymaker. But I think Starfield will be as well, and it's so close. Why would you stop it? So yeah. To be fair, that kind of cancellation happened to Prey 2. I'm not saying these cancellations can't happen, but for it to happen to Bethesda Game Studios, who's about to release this new IP, when there's a huge... I mean, let's face it, this is one of the big wait-fors. This would be akin to CD Projekt Red cancelling Cyberpunk 2077. It's not the same as Prey 2, which really was a very, it was a bit of a niche game compared to some of the others, right? This would be huge. I'm not saying it couldn't happen either. What I am saying is I'm going to need to see some evidence of this. I'm going to need to see huge... I'm going to need to see something from Bethesda on this, to be honest. I mean, I'm going to need to see them say, yeah, no, we stopped working on it. Because I can't imagine they would have stopped working on Starfield a year ago and not said anything and just let everyone think they're making it. I don't think, anyway. I just... Maybe I'm wrong. Were we raided? Gamer Circle. Thank you very much. So, yeah. For me, it's a simple matter of there's just no evidence to back this up whatsoever. The rumour started a couple of days ago after a Redditor by the name of Zenimax Insider with no previous history posted multiple threads in various subreddits. Exactly. So, there's no actual evidence that backs this rumour up. But of course, we all love a good rumour. So I'm going to say that they've actually cancelled Starfield and the Elder Scrolls 6, and they're actually working on Elder Scrolls 7 right now. That's it. Elder Scrolls 7 is in the works right now. That's it. Elder Scrolls 6 was cancelled. I say so. There you go. Now, here's the thing, guys. I don't boycott stuff, to make a point. I mean, I suppose I might. I suppose I could. If I found out that CD Projekt Red were doing something so heinous, so evil, that I really just said, I have got to cut all ties with them and I refuse to support them. Would I say, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm not going to play Cyberpunk 2077. I suppose. It'd have to be something pretty bad. And yes, I would boycott it, not pirate it, because I don't quite see the point of pirating something in protest at all. To me, that... shall we say, minimizes the effect of the boycott. Because the whole idea of a boycott is I'm going to avoid something I like because I'm principled. No, I'm going to steal something because I'm principled. It kind of, it'd be like, well, let's face it, anytime anyone says that, we all think, yeah, sure, that's why you're pirating it. But I don't boycott things because they suck, right? I'm not going to boycott the next Bethesda game because Fallout 76 sucked. I didn't boycott Ubisoft games because I had a sucky experience on Ubisoft games. What actually happened is I just stopped buying Ubisoft games because I did not believe I was going to enjoy them. If I thought to myself, you know what, I'm just not going to enjoy Starfield, I wouldn't buy it. I'm not going to buy it just because it's Bethesda. I would never have bought a game just because it's Bethesda. I know I sometimes say, oh yeah, I'm a Bethesda fanboy, but I'm using the term somewhat lightly. I mean, I enjoy the games they make, or mostly. It's, if they release Starfield and I take one look at it and think, that doesn't look like it's fun, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy it just because it's Bethesda. But by the same token, if I see it and it looks fun and it looks like the sort of game I want to play, I'm not going to boycott it because I didn't like Fallout 76. I guess I don't really understand that sort of mentality, especially seeing as what you seem to be doing is punishing the company for doing what you want. So with Ubisoft, have I started buying Ubisoft games again? Yeah, I have. You know why? Because I've not had bad experiences with their DRMs since I did. I mean, there was a long period where I just didn't buy their games, especially when when you had to buy them from Uplay and things like that. But then somebody actually gifted me a Ubisoft game, and I thought, I'll play this. And that was Watch Dogs, and it was okay, and But then somebody gifted me Stick of Truth, and I enjoyed that game, and I'm liking it, and I've had no problem with the DRM. So now, will I buy another Ubisoft game if it looks good and fun? Yeah. It's not that I've ended my boycott on Ubisoft. I now know that Ubisoft games are not going to punish me for buying them. That's all it is. They've essentially done what I wanted them to do, which was stop having DRM screw the game up. At least so far. So now they're doing what I want them to do, I'll buy the games. Simple as that. There you go. I honestly still don't trust Ubisoft because of the whole DRM thing. I don't trust companies. I think that's a bad idea. I generally think it's a bad idea to buy a game on trust. I know occasionally I've done that, I suppose. Like I've pre-ordered something because I want to download it and start playing it the minute it comes out. And I will almost certainly do that for, say, Starfield 2020. Assuming it's coming out in 2020. See, I've already started adding the date to it. I would almost certainly pre-order that because I'm going to almost certainly play it, even if it's crap, because I'm going to feel like I need to play it. I need to play it. Even if all the reviews came out and said it's crap, I would need to play it. But that's more because of my channel at this point. That is more because of my channel and less because, no, I trust them to make a great game. It's just, I'm going to play it. There is almost no review that could come out where I would not end up playing it anyway. Having said that, I do recommend people do not pre-order. Let reviewers, let YouTubers like myself try it first. And I know that sounds so self-serving. It's like, you shouldn't pre-order, but I'm going to. Yeah. You should stay away from alcohol so I can drink it all. And, yeah, I do not recommend you pre-order. But if you occasionally, you've just said to yourself, no, I trust this game's going to be great. I get it. I do. I understand. Just as a general rule, it's a bad idea to have, trust of that nature. I would look at each and every product and say, is this something I wish to spend my money on. There is a thing of being too suspicious, Starcode. I mean, you can be too suspicious. You should just always be reasonably suspicious, within reason. You know, it's like you should always be careful, but there is being too careful. You should be careful when you cross the road, right? But there is a correct amount of careful. There is a correct amount of careful. You can be too careful crossing the road to the point where it takes you 5 hours to get across the road. You know, it is possible, but it's way easier to be not careful enough, you know. So there is too suspicious. Don't be too suspicious. Just go in with your eyes open is what I would suggest. Go in with your eyes open. If you're excited about, say, Cyberpunk 2077, that's okay. If you think, oh, I think this game's going to be brilliant, I think it's going to be one of the best games ever, that's okay. But if it comes out and immediately there is a lot of reports of problems, don't go, no, I refuse to believe it. You know, that's I think, what people need to do. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, I'm going to use The Outer Worlds as an example here. The Outer Worlds is a good game, but I have a feeling a lot of people went into that expecting it to be, you know, the next benchmark in gaming. I was seeing so much hype for that game, and then the reviews came out and they were like 9.5 out of 10, 10.6 out of 9. It's all like, you know, like insane scores and best game ever. This is the Fallout 4 game we've been waiting for. And I did feel like there was quite a bit of hype there. There was a wave, people had ridden the wave and not realised that the wave just wasn't going where they want. And don't get me wrong, The Outer Worlds is a good game, but it's one of those games I feel got a lot of praise and no criticism, or shall we say limited criticism for its, you know, many flaws. And it does have many flaws. And again, don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed the game. I liked the game. I'd go as far as to say probably loved it, but I loved it for the dialogue. There were plenty of other things in it that I didn't love, and, you know, now that I've stopped playing the game and I'm looking at some of the reviews, I find myself thinking I'm a little worried about doing a review for it. because you know, because I liked it. I'm having to keep saying that, but I feel almost guilty for not thinking it was the best thing since white bread. White bread? Sliced bread! Sliced bread. For some reason at the moment I think of sliced bread as white bread, because here in Norway the only bread that comes pre-sliced is what they call løf, which is white bread. All other bread, what we in Britain call brown bread, is not sliced. Best thing since sliced bread. There you go. So, you know, so I'm a little nervous about that because I know the Obsidian fan base is passionate. So, but then we saw the opposite, didn't we? We saw quite a lot of people reviewing games like Fallout 4 and saying, no, this is brilliant. It's absolutely superb. It's everything we've been hoping for. And then there were some of us going, not really. But then I also feel like there were people going the opposite direction because they were a little disappointed with the dialogue, or let's say it, very disappointed with the dialogue. They then sort of just went completely nuts in the opposite direction of like, you know, worst game ever. And I think that's what I would say overall. Be suspicious within reasonable. Be skeptical. Be skeptical is a better word rather than suspicious. Be skeptical. Have some hype if you want to be hyped, but keep your eyes open. And if you see that the hype wasn't warranted, acknowledge it. But at the same time, don't become so jaded once you find flaws that you can't also find the good things as well. Most games actually have flaws and good things. And the question usually is, did the good things outweigh the bad things for you. Keep your eyes open, make that decision. If you can make that decision before you purchase the game, that is probably best. So listen to some reviews, but don't listen to the score they give it. Do not listen to, oh, this game is a 9.5 out of 10. If I was to do a quick review of Outer Worlds, I would say this is a solid RPG with really good in-depth dialogue that really is, I mean, there's a lot of it. It's great dialogue. It's funny dialogue. There's a lot of amusing character interactions, but it's a bit dated. There are several parts of the Outer Worlds that feel very 2006, 2007. Things like the AI for the NPCs was really quite noticeably bad. And it was. I'd walk into a town and I got no feeling of life from the people in that town. From the very first town onwards, people just seemed to be hanging around waiting for me to speak to them. And I think if I was to describe the Outer Worlds anyway, what I would say is it kind of feels less like a living, breathing world and more like a movie set where there are a lot of actors waiting to deliver their lines. Once you start speaking to them, they're full of life and energy and the dialogue's brilliant, but I found the game's AI so very 10 years ago. So very 10 years. I'm going to say it. Skyrim did a better job of convincing me the people in a town actually had lives. Same with Fallout 4. The Radiant AI in BGS games in 2011 is better than Obsidian's AI in 2019, okay? So, that's a criticism, and I think that's a valid criticism. Did it ruin the game for me? No, it did not. No, it absolutely did not. But it was something I noticed. It was one of those things where I noticed it, and I kept thinking, why is Sanjar stood in the same place all the time? If he was a shopkeeper stood behind a bar, I'd be going, okay, but why hasn't he moved? It's been months. He's still stood next to Celia, having the same meeting. And the guy outside the yacht club, he was just stood there. Emirate was his name. So, it was people like that. It was these little things that just... Now, you always find these sort of things in every single game you ever play, right? Normally, what I'll do if I'm Let's Playing is I will crack jokes about them. If something happens in Skyrim that's utterly ridiculous and none of the NPCs around notice, I'll crack a joke about it because it's funny. In the Outer Worlds, it was just so normal. Guy runs out of a building screaming murder, murder, murder. Nobody looks. Nobody blinks. Nobody moves. And then you, if you don't talk to him, he's going to be there in a month and a half. He's still going to be there in a month and a half. And again, every game suffers from that sort of thing in some little ways. But I felt in the Outer Worlds, it was one of the major weaknesses. And there were a few other things. You can't take bloody helmets off the NPCs. Okay, I'm focusing a bit too much on the negative now. And that's the thing, though. I love to pull holes in flaws. I can't help it. There's something about a flaw that I want to tug at it. But even though I focus on that and I'm cracking jokes about it, I want people to understand that I still actually thoroughly enjoyed the Outer Worlds, did 2 full playthroughs, enjoyed it, loved it, and I'm really happy that there are companies out there who are still willing to make games with in-depth dialogue. In-depth dialogue. So yeah, I'm probably not going to do a review now. I think I've just pretty much done it. Yeah, so I mean, just look at a game, and even if you love it, acknowledge the flaws. And if you hate it, acknowledge the strengths. Although if you hate it, stop playing. Is OW worth the price? Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, the Outer Worlds. God, yes. If you are a role-playing game player who likes sci-fi RPG, again, I could pull it apart till doomsday, criticising different aspects of it. The boring loot, the very boring loot, to be honest. The somewhat uninspired outfits. There's little things I could poke fun at or complain about. But don't get me wrong. Its core game is exactly what I want. It was a good, humorous story with great dialogue, and I honestly want to. What I would like to do, and maybe this is why some reviewers focus on this. And they sort of talk, yeah, the dialogue was awesome. Is I do want to sort of promote that kind of thinking to other companies. Bethesda. I want them to look at it and say, yeah, no, dialogue's popular. See? Dialogue's actually popular. Because Obsidian's not afraid of it. I mean, I did this when I was reviewing Enderall. It's very heavy on the dialogue. And I said, this is something I've really wanted. But here's the thing. When people say things like, oh, The Outer Worlds is the Fallout game I was hoping for when Fallout 4 came out, I disagree. Do you know what the Fallout game I was hoping for? Do you know what I was hoping Fallout 4 would be? Fallout New Vegas. Yeah, with a better engine. With a better engine. Looks a bit nicer, maybe a bit more stable, but I was hoping for Fallout New Vegas. And I would actually say I preferred Fallout New Vegas to The Outer Worlds. Even though Fallout New Vegas probably has some of the same AI flaws as The Outer Worlds, because it is a dated game, I actually think it was harder to spot. That may be because a lot of the NPCs in New Vegas were placed in places that were less obvious when they didn't move. But I found it a lot harder to notice the NPCs having no life in New Vegas that I did in The Outer Worlds. That could also be just the level design or something. But my favourite Obsidian game so far, still New Vegas. And that had the dialogue too. That had the dialogue. So, make of that what you will. But yes, definitely worth it. Full price game, definitely. I would say buy it, support them if you like dialogue heavy RPGs. Didn't New Vegas also have Radiant AI? It had a little bit of Radiant AI, I think. Not to the level of Skyrim though, I don't think so. But it did have some Radiant AI. Some of the NPCs move around. Don't get me wrong, some NPCs in the Outer Worlds do move around. It's just most of them don't. And it's very noticeable. Sometimes you've got to understand when you are making a game, you are making a game for the player. And every single NPC in the game is there to serve the player. And every building and every prop is there for the player's benefit. But what you want to do is cultivate the illusion that that is not true. You want to convince the player that those people have their own lives. This can be by giving them quests that make sense for those characters, rather than these cookie-cut, radiant quest crap things where you just think, right, yeah, you're a tailor in Solitude and you want me to go and find 3 flawed emeralds that can only be found in a cave on the northern coast of Skyrim because RNG, if there are ways of actually making the quest sound believable and thus the character believable. Same way as there are ways of making the characters move around and act and behave that make you believe they actually have lives. But it's fake. It is fake. We all know it's fake, and sometimes the cracks show. But a good developer will cultivate that illusion. They will work that illusion and convince you. They will make you feel that way. Kingdom Come Deliverance did a superb job of that, in my opinion. I mean, the towns and cities felt so... Rattay, for example, it felt busy and people were moving around, and yeah, the shopkeepers were in their shops. when they were supposed to be, but I just got this feeling of a world around me. Yeah, that's, and I get that even in Skyrim. I actually think Skyrim does that reasonably well. When it gets it wrong, it's hilarious, but it does it reasonably well for a 2011 game. I mean, so... Okay, so we're talking about what? The games I'm going to play? Do I feel Skyrim deserves to be called one of the most influential games of the 2010s? Yeah, of course it does. Oh, you're talking about the Jim Sterling video, aren't you? All right, so we've moved on to other YouTuber news. That seems fair enough. Yeah, no, I gotta be honest with you. I found myself nodding with Jim along the entire video, because he started out by saying CD Projekt Red and The Witcher 3 and it's one of the greatest games of the decade, if not ever, sort of thing. And I'm thinking, yeah, no, absolutely. And then he said, but was it really influential? And there's a little side of me going, yeah, but it was brilliant. But I was waiting for it and thinking, yeah, what has it influenced? And then he just came out and said it and said, you look at Skyrim. And I thought, yeah. Say what you like about Skyrim. Mock it mercilessly for its flaws. We're still playing it 9 years later. Games are still mimicking it. It did. I mean, it's achieved immortality as well. Now, so has The Witcher 3, but it achieved immortality just by being superb. And then that was it, wasn't it? It was Skyrim. Skyrim's a meme. Skyrim is a meme in of itself. So yeah, it was very influential. And he listed quite a few other games that I didn't even really think of or even know of that had influenced the business. They influenced the business. But the success of modding itself for Skyrim was incredible. That has to have had an influence on the last decade. It had an influence on YouTube. I want you to think about the amount of videos people were making, like mod videos and YouTube memes. Skyrim memes. I'm still watching Skyrim parody videos today. So yeah, it was very, very influential. Way more influential than Fallout 4 in my opinion. And way more influential than Fallout 76. Fallout 76 has just been so not influential. It's been newsworthy, but what has Fallout 76 influenced other than your revulsion gland? It's not changed the way we look at anything. It's not set a sort of a platform or it's not set a new way of doing things. It tried to capitalise on an old way of doing things. Whereas Skyrim, it took what Bethesda were good at and really made it mainstream. And at the time, they were the ones doing that, and everyone else was doing more linear, less open. I mean, you think about that era. Bethesda have been open world building for the longest time. They really have, and it suddenly became a buzzword round about Skyrim and sometime after that, didn't it? But yeah, so yes. To keep this a little shorter, I agree. Skyrim, it didn't change anything, it didn't invent anything new, but it had a massive influence for 1,000 reasons, not the least of which it got released on like every single solitary platform, including VR. And again, I gotta give Bethesda a lot of credit for taking games like Skyrim and Fallout 4 and not just making them work on VR, but actually making them games I actually want to play on VR. Actually making them a game where I actually said, no, I'm still playing Fallout 4 VR. I've just started again now that my eyes are relaxing after finishing the Outer Worlds. I feel like I can play a bit of VR again because the Outer Worlds was too much stress on my eyes. So yeah. Quorico typed VR, you say. She's about to say Payday 2. She wants me to try Payday 2 in VR, but really what she wants me to do is start playing Payday 2 again so that I can discover you can now do dual wielding akimbo shotguns. That's what's going on here. Akimbo shotguns. Logacool Extreme has asked, can Bethesda come back from Fallout 76 debacle? Yeah, of course they can. That is a very different question from will they, though. It's just a massive question that I cannot answer you. Can they? Oh yeah, of course they can. Will they? Don't know. I think a lot of it's going to come down to, is there a fundamental difference between the Maryland group's mentality and the Austin group's mentality? Can Todd Howard keep the reins of control on his studio and say to ZeniMax, no, we shall not be doing that. We shall be making the sort of game we made with Skyrim. That is what we shall do. If he can do that, then yeah, they can come back from this. But yeah. I'm being told, pencils down, time. We've run out of time, and I've really had no structure to this podcast. It was a total random podcast, really. So I will leave it there. Thank you for joining me. I do not know when the next stream is going to be. I do know I will be streaming The Stick of Truth on Sunday. We are trying to get through that. And once I finish that, of course, I will be returning with Quorico, who apparently is feeling well enough to experience akimbo shotguns. So we should be okay for Divinity Original Sin once I've got The Stick of Truth out of the way. I may do a random stream in between. I don't know. I wouldn't bet on it, but I actually want to continue Fallout 4 VR. I do want to finish that playthrough off at some point, and I just feel like, seeing as you guys have been with me for the whole main quest, I'd probably stream it so you're there for it. So yeah. Anyway, thank you for joining us for this Ramblecast. I hope it wasn't too unstructured and random today. Thank you for the bits, chasing the echoes. Thank you for all the resubs. Thank you for joining in, and I will see you guys next week.